Good morning and welcome to New Mexico Rising, your go-to lifestyle show for everything happening right now across the state. I'm Kayla, and this week we've got this.
So you want to make sure whatever you're eating, no matter how small or big, it's packed with all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you need.
The most common thing is probably phishing scams, and that's where the two-factor authentication blocks about 99% of those. I mean, it blocks a majority of it.
All that and more right here on New Mexico Rising.
Stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media.
And the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, especially among teenagers?
I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, is very different to that of an adult's. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. There's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of action franchises try to go bigger every time, but Jack Ryan Ghost War is also digging into trust, loyalty, and what service really costs. The new film continues the world's fans already know while standing on its own for people jumping in fresh. And joining us today is the legendary Wendell Pierce, who returns as James Greer. Wendell, it's great to have you on the show, my friend. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, James Greer has always been one of the most grounded characters in this world. What do you enjoy most about stepping back into him for Ghost War?
The character of James Greer really reflects some of the people that I met doing the research of this character. Real CIA officers, retired, who have kind of given me their true north to form a more perfect union, and some of the debate that they have within the agency, and but understanding that the shared idealism of working on the mission, which is to form a more perfect union and protect that. Those are shared values. And so stepping back into the role, that's the thing that I'd love to portray. As an actor, you're a student of human behavior. And what you want to do is create the world so strong that it induces that behavior. And that's the great thing about reliving a role like James Greer.
One thing John Krasinski mentioned is that the story works for both longtime fans and for people who've never watched the series. Was that something you felt like while you were making it too?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to be familiar with the series at all. You can come to this fresh. You will see the history that we have as characters. You will see our relationship. You see our expertise, and then also you have this story of what's happening now, this casual act that I ask a favor of Jack Ryan to do for me that actually ignites a global espionage chase. And so it is one of those things that people who have seen the series can come to and appreciate the next level of where we take the characters, and people who come to this fresh and new. But what we do over the course of a series, put into a 2-hour movie, is just heightened and it makes it a lot more intense.
And you said it's been heightened, it's more cinematic, a little bigger, but it also keeps the political and moral tensions that Tom Clancy's stories are known for. What kind of balance does this film strike between action and some of the character?
Well, I think it's very important. I'm very proud of the fact that we keep the debate happening about the clarity of mission and clarity of what values are, and the political debate that happens around that, because that is happening within the world, what happens within the agency, and it makes you, as the viewer, look at it and decide what your values are. That's the forum of what filmmaking should be about, the place where we collectively come together, reflect on who we are, decide where we want to go, decide what our values are, maybe bring that into our lives. And so I love that we have that debate, and at the same time have some of the best cinematic thrill sequences of action comparable to the French Connection and Marathon Man and all of that. So I'm very proud of the cinematic and the debate that happens within the film.
And fans, they know you from so many incredible roles from over the years, but there's something about Greer that people really connect with. What do you think keeps audiences invested in this character and this franchise?
I try to make James Greer a everyman, that people look at it and go, there but by the grace of God go I. That they can see themselves in James Greer. He's a man of pragmatism. He's a family man. He's flawed as he tries and did not succeed in keeping his family together. But with all of that, he is principled. And he attempts to hang on to his principles and values. And people will see themselves in that, Not someone who's perfect, but someone who's pragmatic and at least tries to live by some sort of moral code. And that's who we all are, and that's who we are when we dream of who we can become. So that's the thing that makes him prescient, and personal. And that's what I pride myself on when I try to portray him.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. Jack Ryan, Ghost War premieres May 20th on Prime Video. Wendell Pierce, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You may not know his name, but if you've ever watched soccer over the past few years, you've probably seen him. Yassine Cheuko became a familiar face protecting some of the biggest stars in the sport, and with the World Cup excitement continuing to build here in the United States, he's giving us a look at what it takes to stay ready in some of the most intense environments in sports. Yassine, it's great to have you with us. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing okay myself. People recognize you from those viral moments around the game, but what do most people get wrong about what you actually do?
So I'm very happy to do that. I'm doing this job now since 5 years. I'm very grateful. It's a blessing for me to be on the best athlete history. I learned every day. I love him so much. I love my job, and it's amazing for me. I'm living the dream.
And you've been around some of the most passionate crowds in sports. What do you think makes soccer fan culture different than anything else?
Soccer, it's a very popular sport. Everybody around the world watching soccer. People from Europe, Africa, India, Asia. Soccer, it brings people together. So it's very exciting. And I think it's the most popular sport in the world.
Absolutely. When you're in a packed stadium or like a high pressure situation, what are you paying attention to that the rest of us probably don't even notice?
So before the game, I always go to the stadium like 10-15 minutes before. I always go to check the sensitive area, sensitive spot when they can jump easy. So during the game, I'm always focused on this sensitive spot on the players. I don't watch the game at all. Even if you ask me how is the game going, I cannot tell you because I don't know. I just focused on my job, on the crowd and the players.
And you're surrounded by elite athletes every single day. What does your own training and preparation look like to stay on that level?
I start to train at 13 years old. I'm training now for more than 30 years. I used to be a Muay Thai fighter in Thailand. So training, it's part of my life. I train every day. I eat healthy. I sleep good. And this helps me a lot to keep my mind in peace and to be in peace with people and with my work.
And you see nowadays so many soccer players and fans drinking the yerba mate. For someone that has never even tried it, what's the appeal and why has it become part of even your routine?
Yerba mate, it's very important for me. I'm drinking this now since 5 years. And yerba mate is a plant from South America. And it gives you focus, it gives you a boost. It's more than a drink. It's something you can share with your family, with your friends. And it's part of my life now. And you're going to see a lot of soccer players during the World Cup drinking this because it helps you a lot for your performance in the field, off the field. Even if you're not an athlete, if you run a company or something, it's very good for your focus. You should try.
I actually love this stuff myself. Well, thank you for sending over one of these little packets for me again. If you want to learn more about yerba mate and traditions behind it, you got to visit yerbamadre.com. Thanks for joining me today, Yassine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Depression doesn't always look the way people expect. In fact, many people say they're fine even when symptoms are still affecting their daily lives. New survey data is shedding light on that disconnect. And joining us today are Dr. Jessica Jackson and therapist Katie Morton. Great to have you both.
Thanks for having us.
Dr. Jackson, when someone says they're fine, but they're living with depression, what does that often mean in practical terms?
In practical terms, it often means that they are going through the motions, that they are able to do things like get up and go to work, take care of home, even sometimes engage with their community, but there feels like a disconnect. They don't necessarily feel like they are living per se. It doesn't feel like it brings them any joy or contentment, even something to look forward to. You know, I often describe this as feeling like you're living in black and white instead of color. And for many folks with depression, this is an improvement, especially if they weren't able to sleep before, didn't have an appetite, couldn't get out of bed. But this is still almost settling and saying this is as good as I'm going to feel instead of kind of trying to get to a point where I feel the best that I can feel.
The survey found that many patients don't expect full relief from treatment. Why have expectations become so limited?
I think for a lot of people, their expectation, when they go through the treatment process, they become exhausted, right? They're working really hard. They finally got that appointment with their doctor, or they finally took their first medicine. And I think for some people, by the time they reach that point, they're tired and they think, well, maybe this is as good as it gets. Maybe this is the best I can feel. And so I think for a lot of people, they kind of lowered their bar for what they can get out of treatment. I also think we don't talk enough about full remission as a whole. We talk about feeling better. You know, if you ask someone like, why did you start getting treatment? They'd say, because I want to feel better, or I just want to feel better. When they show up in an office, that's what they'll often say. And so I think a lot of the conversation needs to gear towards remission, which is why we're here talking about Generation Fine versus I can just feel okay. And I think that's kind of why we're seeing that 80% of people feeling like, oh, I guess this is as good as it gets.
So what's a simple first step for someone who feels stuck between struggling and truly feeling better?
I think tracking how you're feeling. It's important to collaborate with your provider on your treatment. And by giving them some data, you help them to say, here's the goal, here's the endpoint that I'm trying to get to. And that starts with tracking. I encourage folks to use the Notes app on their phone or their calendar app and note when you're having trouble sleeping, when you don't have an appetite, when you may have crying spells or feel sadder than usual. So when you go into your appointment, you're not just saying, I want to feel better, but you have a specific aim and you're saying, you know, I haven't been sleeping for 5 nights out of the past 2 weeks, and I'd like to be able to sleep more than half the time, right? Or I've been feeling sad 10 days, and I'd like to at least get down to only feeling sad 2 days. That's a great place for folks to start.
And Katie, you mentioned Generation Fine. What is Generation Fine and what conversations is it trying to start?
Yeah, it's a global campaign started by Johnson & Johnson to help shed light on the fact that when we are treating our depressive symptoms, we don't have to settle for just fine. We can feel like our best self. Like we were kind of speaking about, like, 80% of people just don't know that. They don't realize that. And so we're trying to spread awareness to let people know that you can get full remission and you can go back to how you felt before you ever had any symptoms of depression.
Why is it so hard for people to tell a provider when something isn't working?
I think it's 2 reasons that contribute to that. One is exhaustion. It can take a while for you to get a diagnosis. And then it's still a journey to find the right treatment combination. And so sometimes we get to a point where we're like, this is good enough. As Katie mentioned earlier, like, I'm feeling better than I was 6 months ago or a year ago. I can just settle for this. And I also think some of it is guilt. When you've been trying to figure out what's the best thing to help me and you talk to your provider a lot, sometimes we don't want to bug them or bother them. But that's their job. And so folks do want to help. And so I encourage people to, next time let your provider know, like, hey, I am feeling better and I think I could be feeling a lot more better, right? I could be feeling much, much better. How do we get me there? How do we get me from just going through the motions to really enjoying spending time with my family and friends, or being able to have quality sleep, not just sleep every other night?
That sounds great. Where can our viewers go to learn more?
Yeah, if people want to learn more, they can go to generation-fine.com. There's tons of information about the campaign as well as helpful resources there.
Dr. Jackson, Katie, thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
June is Internet Safety Month, and for a lot of families, summer means kids and teens are spending even more time online. The challenge is finding practical ways to stay safe without turning every conversation into a lecture. TikTok is partnering with digital safety expert Cathy Pedrayes to share a new safety starter pack designed to help families take a fresh look at privacy, security, and healthy digital habits. Cathy joins us now to have some simple tips parents can take right away. Cathy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me. First of all, I love that intro. I feel like we are the same person, the same philosophies when it comes to online safety. But yes, I mean, it's Internet Safety Month. This is the time to pause, to check in, to review our settings for ourselves, for our teens on these apps. And so I've partnered with TikTok this month to launch the Family Safety Starter Pack, where I really talk about 3 main tips that families can start implementing today and tomorrow and throughout their entire experience online to, just secure their experiences, as you said.
And that safety starter pack, it focuses on the 3 simple steps you were saying. Can you walk us through some of those and explain why they're effective for families?
Yes. So the first thing that you want to do, and this is for the adults and the teens in the family, is to secure your account. So TikTok has built in within the app, you go into your settings and privacy tools, and then there's a thing called security and permissions. And within that, you will find the security checkup. And here you'll be prompted to do several things to secure your account, like enabling backup logins. 2-factor authentication is crucial. Reviewing any, unusual activity, maybe a device that you don't recognize. There's actually a lot of tools in there. So the first step before we go into the parental controls and all of that would be securing the account, again, for you and the teens in your family.
And that's the TikTok's family pairing feature. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So when it comes to the parental controls aspect, the next step would be to set up the family pairing tool. What's nice about TikTok is that it has 50 preset, just by default, privacy and safety features already built into the app. But then in the family pairing tool is where you're able to customize the experience. So one thing that parents ask a lot about is screen time, for example. That's where you're able to adjust the screen time settings, over the week, over the weekends, over as they age on the app. You're also able to do other things like block certain content or filter hashtags, just really ways to customize the For You feed. So it's a really great tool and very easy to pair. TikTok just walks you through all the steps.
And there's a lot of worry about privacy, maybe some scams or even account security. What are some of the most important settings people should review right now, regardless of how often they use social media?
So actually, the most common thing is probably phishing scams, and that's where the 2-factor authentication blocks about 99% of those. I mean, it blocks a majority of it. So in that security checkup, that would be one of the first things. But the other thing I would add to that is scams evolve, right? They're not always the email chain letter thing. They change over time. And so it really needs to be an ongoing conversation. This is something that I talk to my kids a lot about, even at their young age, is, just not believing everything that you see online. And so that's one of the things that I guide parents to have conversations with their families about scams, online safety, content, whatever it might be. TikTok does have a guardian's guide. It lives on their website. I also put it in the video that I mentioned earlier, the Family Safety Starter Pack that I launched, but it lives there and it gives you some prompts to have these conversations with your family. But as you mentioned, scams are a good one and definitely something you could be talking to your family about every week.
Conversations are the hardest part. What is your advice for parents who want to talk about online safety without making their teen feel like they're being monitored, punished, or even just lectured at?
The most crucial part is to really help them understand that, one, this is coming from a place of love, right? It's not coming from a place of control. It's coming from a place of, I want to prepare you to be a good digital adult in the future, right? The same way that you need to learn how to drive a car, how to, ride a bike and do these things well. Same thing. I'm teaching you how to drive the internet world. And I think when it comes from that understanding of, hey, what are you seeing online? What am I seeing online? And how can we make this a conversation, as you so beautifully emphasized at the beginning of the segment, that perspective is really crucial. And then also adding in, some of the conversation starters that you'll find in the Guardian's Guide. Those two things combined are really a winning combo. And then, of course, you have the parental controls and you explain, why are we doing this? What's the goal? How do we grow to the next step of this? How do you graduate to the next step? And it's really ongoing.
All right. So where can we find more information about TikTok safety tools, family pairing features, and the new safety starter pack?
So to try to make it easy, I did pin the safety starter pack video on my account at Cathy Pedrayes, and then the Guardians Guide, it's also in my video. But if you go to tiktok.com/Guardians Guide, you can find it there as well, or just type it into your search engine.
Cathy Pedrayes, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
If you're trying to eat a little healthier without spending a fortune at the grocery store, the dairy aisle might be worth another look. From protein-packed favorites to new snack ideas and meal shortcuts, there's a lot happening beyond the basics. Brooke Parkhurst is a culinary instructor and cookbook author, and she's here to share what's trending. Welcome, Brooke. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So, my friend, why are so many shoppers taking a fresh look at the dairy aisle right now?
You know, I think people are realizing just how many amazing and exciting new flavors are on the dairy aisle. We all have our favorites, right? And the classics like milk, eggs, yogurt, cheese. But beyond that now, there is amazing innovation. And we have probiotics, kefir, internationally, globally inspired dips. We have pre-made doughs, delicious creamers, seasonal yogurts. There's just so much, and they offer great nutrition, versatility, flexibility. Everything's going on right now in the dairy aisle.
And protein seems to be everywhere these days. How does dairy fit into that trend?
Yeah, you know, with the new dietary guidelines, the big focus, the big buzzword is protein, and it's also on nutrient density. So you want to make sure whatever you're eating, no matter how small or big, it's packed with all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you need. So dairy was already doing a great job with that. Nothing needs to be fortified, but the key is now you can have that snack pack on the go. You can have the cottage cheese bowl, the cheese stick, throw it into your bag, have it on the way to work, on the way to practice. So you can have your protein, your dairy protein, not just at breakfast, but all throughout the day.
And for families trying to stretch their grocery budget, why is dairy such a smart option?
Dairy's great. I'm a mom. I'm at the grocery store all the time. It's not about the lowest cost ingredient. It's about the ingredient that you can use to stretch, to add to what you might have at home, to inspire more dishes. So I do like to call them stretch ingredients, the sour cream, the cheese, make a casserole with that and your ground chicken, your vegetables. So make sure that, you are watching your budget and you can have healthful meals 5 to 6 nights a week.
And are there any new products or flavors people should keep an eye out for the next time they're shopping?
Absolutely. There's just so much innovation going on right now. We have those new internationally flavored dips. We have the great coffee creamer. And then we're really doing a throwback to classics. Like I said, cottage cheese used to be huge, kind of went away. Well, guess what? It's having a comeback. It's on TikTok. I love making these cottage cheese bowls with fresh summer fruit for my daughter. She's 17. She loves them. Super helpful. A great snack to have any time of day.
And what are some easy summer meals or snacks you love making with items from the dairy aisle?
Summer, you want fresh, you want flexible, you want easy, not time consuming. For my son, these great ooey gooey grilled cheese bites are delicious. I love with the pre-made dough, making flatbreads, marinara sauce, 3 cheeses on top, little shredded turkey or pepperoni, all delicious, all great, very easy, doesn't take a lot, and everyone loves them.
And my friend, where can viewers go for more recipes and ideas?
Absolutely. You guys should go to easyhomemeals.com for all my tips, tricks, and recipes. And don't forget, June is Dairy Month. So there's the June Dairy Month $10,000 sweepstakes. You might win a gift card to your favorite grocery store. Who knows? Just make sure that you enter before June 30th.
Brooke Parkhurst, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of New Mexico Rising. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Be sure to check out our website at newmexicorising.com, follow us on social media at New Mexico Rising, and head over to YouTube at NM Rising to catch anything you might have missed. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week on New Mexico Rising.